I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. Am I saying that correctly?
Ululate, yeah.
Ululate. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry. Can you say it again, Michael?
Ululate. Like as in the letter
Yeah,
ululate. Yeah.
yeah.
It's the
Okay,
ululation thing.
sorry, Blake. Just 1 second. So I made a big mistake talking about things you shouldn't do. I made a big mistake in a concert. I addressed the audience. I said, "We're going to sing this piece. This is a traditional South African piece, and during it, we're going to." And I said the word "uvolate." And then
Okay.
I had a parent contact me afterward who was a lawyer and
Ah.
said, Danny, I don't think you meant to say uvolate. Uvolate means kissing
Uh-huh.
someone so intensely that you touch their uvula. And unless you
Yeah.
meant that, I don't think you should say that anymore. So then
Yeah.
but I'm happy to get
I'd
the
love to know
articulation
how
right.
this lawyer knew that, but anyway.
Yeah, yeah, good. Great point.
Somebody was sued somewhere along the line for ululating
Yes,
someone
yes.
else.
Hello and welcome to the Season 2 finale of the Choir Guys podcast, brought to you by Endeavor Music Publishing. My name is Blake Richter.
And I am Danny Gutierrez.
Danny, this is our first episode where we are not in the same room. And
Feels weird.
It's so empty back there behind me in the studio. Where are you right now?
Right now, I'm in St. Louis. I just got back in from New York, as you can tell by my New York hat that I bought from a street vendor. Yeah, I was just visiting family and here in St. Louis, so I'm far away, but yet we're still looking at each other, so that's
Well,
good.
that's technology, you know. What was the
Mhm.
best part of New York? And I'm hoping you'll tell the story about your son, Zane.
I mean, my favorite part, I think, was just going to New York City and playing street chess for like 7 hours straight, and he was killing it. He's amazing at chess. He really is. He's an advanced club player. That's his rating. But he's making a name for himself in the New York City
Mm.
street chess circuits. So
On the New York City streets, he's
we
making a name
wanted
for
we
himself.
wanted to see initially we went to go see Hadestown, and he just had to talk with me. He was like, "Dad, I really don't want to see Hadestown. I just want to play chess." And it was kind of about him at this point, as far as the trip to New York City. So we just played chess.
Well, here's
He
the thing.
played. He
Like
would destroy me.
I haven't seen Hadestown on Broadway, but I've seen it. I saw it when it came to Springfield, I don't know, a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And I love the musical. I think it's amazing. But for a 12-year-old, I
It
don't know.
wouldn't work.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I
Good
mean,
to know.
he's not a normal 12-year-old. Like, he's pretty intellectual and everything, obviously, if he's playing 7 hours of chess. So he might have enjoyed it, and the music's wonderful. But there are times where I was like, this could have been like a half hour shorter.
Okay.
I do
All right.
love the musical, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how me and my
Okay.
wife felt. So,
It's good to know.
well, hey, you know what, Danny? We have a great episode in store for our listeners today. We are actually filming this video on a Thursday night, but in our guest country, it's almost lunchtime on Friday.
Are we going to the land down under?
I believe we are, Danny. Our special guest was most recently the director of choral activities at the University of Pretoria in South Africa, not Australia, the conductor of the renowned Tuks Camerata, and a senior lecturer in choral conducting in the Department of Music. His compositions and arrangements have been performed throughout the world, and his arrangements of traditional South African songs are especially popular.
Yes, won many choir competitions and regularly adjudicates and presents workshops on South African music, both nationally and abroad. The University of Pretoria, Tuks Camerata, is one of South Africa's finest choral ensembles, having won many accolades and awards over the years. Our guest was the conductor of the Tuks Camerata from 2013 to 2025, and he regularly attends symposia and conferences all over the world to remain at the forefront of choral music education.
Please welcome Michael Joseph Barrett. He is here. Woo!
It's
Welcome.
me. It's me. Hello, everybody. Thanks, Blake.
It's
Nice
so-
What
to-
time? What
nice to
time
be
is it?
here.
What time is it right now in Australia?
Well, actually, I have to check because I've just been in Denmark, so I was that side of the world, and I just got back 2 days ago, and I
Oh my
keep getting
gosh.
confused, and my heart is still in South Africa, so I don't know whether I'm coming or going, but I mean, I think
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it's 11 in the morning.
So you're like,
On on July 11th, I think, right?
Yes, we're a day ahead of you. That's everything happens
Wow.
first this side of the world. So sorry
You're
for you being
from the
in the
future.
past. We're
Yeah.
from the
So
future, yes.
how is
Follow me for more tips.
yeah,
That
how is the day on July 11th? Is it a good day so far?
It's a bit gloomy, and that's I would probably stay in bed today if that side of the world. So take the day off. I give you permission.
Thank you. Good to know. I won't do anything tomorrow. That works.
Good, great.
Well, we are so
Uh,
thankful to have you on the podcast today. We've got some questions for you about you've made a huge transition recently, so we'd love to talk to you about that and just all things South Africa, because I know even though you're not living there anymore, again, your heart is still there, and obviously that's who you are. So we've got a lot of questions about that. So, Danny, over to you.
So before we dig in, can you tell us a little bit about how you got here? I know you're in Australia right now, but how you got here at this point in your life professionally, how did you become this internationally known conductor, composer, and arranger? How did this happen?
I'm really good looking, and that's pretty much the end of my success. So
Done.
I'm just joking.
Ta-da!
Do you know Vogue, the magazine? No, I'm just joking. No, that's just a real joke. So when I was very young, my parents would tell me that I would just sing all the time. I'd sing in the car, I'd sing in the shower, and I mean to such an extent that I irritated my four other brother siblings. Large family, yes. My parents really loved each other, and And so, my parents in Pretoria, where I'm from, which is north of Johannesburg, one day this little school that I knew nothing about because I was 8 years old, called the Drakensberg Boys Choir, was performing the St. John's Passion by Johann Sebastian Bach in our area. And my mother said, "Do you want to go?" And of course, I didn't know what it was. I said, "Absolutely." And I fell asleep within the first 4 minutes because, to have a heart, I was eight, and it was the St. John's Passion,
Yeah.
which is ironically one of my favorite works today, that and B minor mass. And then of course my parents woke, they didn't see me sleeping. They said, "What did you think?" I said, "Oh, I thought it was great." And that, so I said, "Good." And about a week later, they sent me to the Drakensberg Boys Choir, which is a music school here, or there. You see, I'm still in South Africa. There,
Yes.
and equivalent to, your equivalent of your old American boy choir, which I know doesn't exist anymore, or Vienna Boys Choir. So it was a boarding school in the middle of the Drakensberg Mountains, and there my passion for music started and was instilled in me. We would sing Palestrina by day and we would sing Shosholoza by night, kind of thing. And that's where my love for traditional music came, but also my Western education, or European Western choral music. So it was a beautiful, diverse uh, uh, education from a musical point of view. We studied Zulu in the Drakensberg because it's in KwaZulu-Natal, so that's the main traditional language spoken there. So we had to do Zulu. That's why most of my music is in the Nguni languages, which is Zulu or isiXhosa, but also because the other languages are more difficult to pronounce because their vowels aren't what you see. So, and I'm
Hmm.
lazy, so I just stick to what I know, kind of thing. That was a joke. Time to laugh. Cue the
I,
laughing.
I, I, laughed,
Um,
I laughed a little bit.
and then, it was very soft though, Blake. It was very soft.
Hey, it's late
Um,
here.
I'm surprised you haven't got a beer or a glass of wine or something there. But anyway,
Hey,
uh,
This
things
is
will work
water.
out. Things will
I'm
work
nervous
out.
about laughing because I feel like if I laugh, you're not going to hear it until like 3 seconds later because of the delay, and then I'll just seem
no, no,
like
no,
out
no.
of touch of what's happening.
No, actually, I've already heard you because we're in the future, remember? So, I mean, that's
Oh, okay.
yeah. So
Yeah,
it's already
that
it's
makes
already
more
happened.
sense.
That's
So
just water,
so
by the way.
and
That is just water in the
yeah,
in the cup.
but then why are you slurring, Blake? Why are you
That's
slurring?
just how I roll,
Water.
you know.
Oh, that's how Americans speak, of course. Yeah,
Yes.
you don't speak English here.
Wow, we're doing this
Anyway, long
early in the
story.
episode.
lo- Shots fired. So, long story short, after the Drakensberg, I just continued with music. I went to study music at the University of Pretoria, actually, where I was conductor until recently for 12 years. So people always ask, why did you do music? And the short answer is because I really love music. And number two, which is even more important, I can't do anything else.
Except you're good looking, so you can model.
I could do that, yeah. Thanks for noticing, Blake. Appreciate it. I knew I liked you. Anyway, and then obviously, through writing a lot of music. Cameron Nabar is a huge part of my success into the international world. He happened to be in South Africa, and I can't remember, a couple of years ago, 2015, I remember. So it's about a decade ago now, and he was there not on my invitation. He just came to one of my rehearsals. One of my past students was had him in South Africa and said, "Can we come sit in rehearsal?" I said, "Absolutely." And it was actually during that rehearsal that we were working on one of which has now become one of my most popular pieces called Indodana. And it was my first published piece. And Cameron was the one that said, this really needs to be published. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, whatever, you have pretty eyes, but, it probably won't go anywhere kind of thing. I always tell Cameron he has pretty eyes. And I mean, because I didn't really know Cameron. And I mean, since he had Indodana published through Santa Barbara Music Publishers, and then he said, he wanted more of this. So I actually became quite well known as a composer slash arranger before I became well known as a conductor. And because Camerata sings all my arrangements, then people started to realize that actually, I can do a 4-time pattern. A 5-time pattern's confusing, and I never know which way to go. But 4-time patterns I'm pretty good at, and Camerata really became, kind of part of that success story for me. And I've been very privileged because I've traveled the world, and it's what I love to do. Since I was young and in the Drakensberg Boys Choir, we traveled as well as a young boy. My first international tour was when I was 9 years old.
Gosh.
And the work that we had to do was we had to sing a concert for people that loved us and adored us and made us feel so incredibly important. And I was like, I can get used to this, just
Sign me
people,
up.
like just singing, and they call that work. I was like, yeah, let me do this. So yeah, that's pretty much the long and the short of my story. And I've just been very privileged, and I hope this journey can continue for many, many years. So
So we were fortunate to have Michael conducting Missouri All-State Choir, and it was one of the best all-state choirs we've ever had. And my students, I had one in particular, it was a life-changing experience for him. He went from going to that, not knowing what he's going to do, now he's going to be a music educator and he's studying at a university. So just amazing experiences. And I think the states have been fortunate. Michael has conducted and for the Florida All-State Choir, the Texas All-State Choir, and has really been going around doing these amazing things. So we are very, very fortunate to have him working in this country. So 100%, if you're listening to it, listening to this podcast, please consider Michael for one of these gigs for sure.
thank you. That's very kind. I'm doing South Carolina in February, but I'll also be visiting Portland and Oregon universities with Ethan Sperry. Also, I just wanted to say how small the world is. I just happened to go to a rehearsal here with a very well-known and well-respected conductor, Cole Crossing. He's also a composer here in Australia. And he was here from Adelaide, and I went to go sit in his rehearsal. And one of the singers in this national youth choir sang in my Texas All-State Choir
Ah,
and came to
Wow.
talk to me and said the reason, why he's pursuing music, and that was that life-changing experience. And it's always nice to hear these stories because, as I'm sure we all know, there's better ways of making money in the world than being a choir conductor. But we love what we do, so
yeah.
that's a good
Yeah.
thing.
Oh,
So
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, so we talked about Cameron LaBar earlier and his beautiful eyes. So we recently got to see you whenever you came down to Springfield to see him and also work with the Missouri State Chorale. Danny's choir even got to perform with the Tuks Camerata, which was awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about your time in the States and more specifically your time with the Missouri State Chorale and your performance at ACDA in Dallas?
Yeah, well, that was life-changing in so many ways, and also because it was my last performance with the Tuks Camerata. I mean, the two concerts at ACDA in the Windspear Opera it was the two last times I conducted with the Camerata. So it's a little bit fresh. So I
Yeah.
still see the choir as my choir. It's a really difficult thing. It's like losing a child. Really, it's that significant as part of your life. And they'll always be part of my life. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I saw them put up a poster for a concert coming up, and I immediately wanted to send them an email to say there was a spelling mistake on the poster. Um, but I didn't. I was quite controlled in that. There was a spelling mistake on it, and I was obviously always very particular about things like that. But no, the trip was really life-changing in so many ways, for me, but also for our students because we don't get to travel. It was the first time we got to go to the States because it's really expensive to travel that far across the world, and of course the dollar is really strong. Wait, let me. The dollar was really strong. It's not anymore. It's tanking actually, but that's a whole other discussion. Just come to the States now. It's cheaper. But anyway, so we did a wonderful tour. We started. I called it the Hamilton tour in the beginning. So we flew to New York and we did New York and we did Delaware and DC and Philadelphia. Not in that order. Philadelphia, Delaware, Philadelphia, DC. We went to actually watch the Hamilton show just so the students got a bit of the history of that side of the world, and obviously also watching the show Hamilton was really great for my students. And then of course the big thing is we flew across to Missouri, and we performed with Missouri. And obviously Danny's fantastic choir, truly incredible choir, Danny. I mean, I've said this to you so many times. I've heard you at ACDA and performing my music. I mean, it's just what you do at that school is and the schools before that is really it's incredible, not just on an American level, on any international level that I've ever experienced. You should be so incredibly proud. And it was wonderful to share the stage also with Chandler and Chandler Cooper, but MSU has a special place in our hearts. They're actually at this very moment in South Africa on a tour, and I just spoke to Cameron last night. And anyway, so the actual experience was fantastic, not just because our choirs come a long way. They've come to South Africa several times, and this is the first time to come to MSU, but there's just this real respect for each other and what we're able to do. Our ensembles are very different. We're both university choirs, but we're completely different cultures, completely different ideas, sound ideals. And part of this was we were recording an album together, which will be released next year. 18 or a 16-track album, 8 American songs and 8 South African songs, crossing all the various or many of the genres that we have. So from Western South African music to as traditional as we get, and both choirs learned all the music together, and we recorded this fantastic album while we were there, and it was truly life-changing. And I cannot wait for this album to be released. And it was a dream that Cameron and I had for many years, but we just didn't ever think it would be possible. Um, and then, of course, the ACDA performances, amongst all the other performances, it was really incredibly special to be able to share our culture, our music, and to be received so incredibly well. It really was. It was really life changing, and something that I will really never ever forget. So. It was an emotional experience and still is. So it's quite difficult to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was amazing. Really was amazing.
Well, and like I will have that album on repeat for months and months and months. I've been like, do you know what month next year it's coming out, or do you just know that it's next year?
So we're still in the negotiation stages. I think I'll probably only fly to do the editing in April. Just because we're trying to get everybody's schedules together, and
Hmm.
I'll be conducting Carnegie Hall in April, and because I'm already in the States in February as well. The other date was March, but then to be there February, March, and April and away from my family that long seems a little bit too much. So I think it will probably be April, and then
Yeah.
it will probably release shortly after that. But it will be next year. So we will definitely there'll be lots of promo, and I'll make sure you guys get an invite to the official launch. So
Whenever you were here, like, Cameron had asked, like, hey, can you film? Can you take off work one day and just film, Tuks Camerata at MSU all day and film at the concert and everything? And it was the easiest yes, because I'd never seen you guys live. I had never seen you work specifically, in person, and so it was just a life changing couple of days in Springfield. So I know you didn't have a choice, but I appreciate you allowing me to put a camera in your face and in your students' faces, and they were just the most lovely human beings, like getting to interview some of them. I remember Jade, I think, was one of your students.
Yeah,
And she was just one of the most lovely human beings I've ever met. I know a lot of that reflects your character. So thanks for being awesome, basically.
Well, thank you. Yeah, well, I mean, it was really great having you there too, and thank you for always capturing my left side. As you know,
Yeah.
that's my good side. So
Yeah, it was in the contract, so.
yeah, it was. Yeah.
You've recently transitioned out of your role at the University of Pretoria. So, and I
I'm
know that's
glad
a
you
big
ended that with out of your role of. I've recently
well,
transitioned. Yes, I have. So
yes,
thank you for
yeah.
noticing.
So what's next for you, and how do you feel about this new chapter? How has it been acclimating to a different culture, a different hemisphere? You know, all those things.
It's a little bit difficult because South Africa is the best rugby and cricket teams in the world. So, you know, the banter here doesn't really stop wherever I go. And I keep reminding the Aussies where their places in the sporting hierarchy. But other than that, I mean, it's very similar to South Africa from many aspects. I mean, everybody speaks English here. I mean, although they do drag their vowels a lot. And of course, South Africa has the sexiest accent in the world. So I'm trying to just
I've heard this.
acclimatize to that. Well, it's true. Like, let's be
Yeah,
honest, it's
I
true.
think all of our
yeah. Let's
listeners
be
are
honest.
experiencing it right now. So,
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I hope they can all understand me. No, but many things are similar. The weather is similar. Climate obviously is similar here. The type of food we eat. It's so from that point of view, it's pretty easy. Also, living conditions. I mean, if I had to move to Europe, which would have been easier because I have European citizenship. If the family did move to Europe, it would be a whole different type of environment because, you know, Europe is mainly apartment living, where here we have houses, just like in South Africa and that. So that transition period has been easy. Nevertheless, it is a different country and it is a different culture. And just because it feels similar in that, it's not. I think it's been wonderful meeting conductors here, and I'm doing a lot of that. I have a lot of fantastic people that I've reached out to and just visiting to see what the choral scene is like here and how it works because it's very different in every country. So navigating that very carefully at the moment. I haven't got any permanent prospects at the moment, but I decided because we have a 4.5 year old boy, we really are making him a priority so that he can settle in nicely. It's really important for us to get that right, and he's adjusting now. It was very difficult for him. So that is really the priority at the moment, and I'm very fortunate that I do have quite a number of international engagements. So I'll be doing that. But in the interim, I'm really reaching out to conductors and choirs and just getting to meet people. And you know, there might be a Melbourne Camerata in the future. Well, there definitely will be a Melbourne Camerata in the future. It's just working my way up to that, and I can't wait for that day to continue.
nice. So, you were the director of the Tuks Camerata for over a decade. During that time, what would you say is your favorite memory with the choir, either whether it's when you were singing in the choir or conducting the choir, and whether it was like a recording session, a video shoot, a trip, performance, any of that?
My word,
That's a
I mean,
terrible question. I'm so sorry.
that is a terrible question. So I mean, there are so many. I mean, we've just had such wonderful collaborations. I have to say, in general, that the most special thing was the collaborations that we had, especially with two main choirs that travel South Africa a lot, and that is Missouri State University and, of course, the Barnsley Youth Choir. It's conducted by Matt Wright, which is an incredible institution in a small town just an hour away from Manchester. And it's an old mining town, and they've got a youth choir there that sings right into your heart. And they've got an incredible program, and Matt is an incredible friend, and of course Cameron and I are so close. So that's I mean I think those collaborations with international choirs and people always phoning Camerata saying, "Do you have can you come sing? Can you be here?" I think that's wonderful. I do think one of the favorite memories that I have, if I had to single out something, was in 2001 when I sang in a choir. We went to a competition in Austria called, or in Spital, which is in Austria. It's an international competition that invites 10 choirs. And they had a flag flagpole kind of area where they hoisted the flags of all the choirs that were competing, and it was really fun that we thought that one night we'd climb up the flagpole and steal the South African flag.
What?
It wasn't me, just so you know, but
Oh my gosh. Wow.
and I think if I remember correctly, we also permanently borrowed the actual flag of the festival, the Spital flag, which is I think still hanging in the Camerata choir room today.
Wow.
Nice.
Okay. I don't know what the word is in South Africa, but I think people here would call you Henri. You ever heard of that word before? Henri?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're an honorary member.
Yeah. Your arrangements of traditional South African songs are beloved around the world, including Mixa and Springfield. I mean, I'm trying to put a number to it. I've done so many of your pieces, your arrangements at this point, and so has Blake as well. What's your process for honoring the cultural roots of a piece while still making it your own?
So South Africa has a different way of approaching music that is of the folk. I know it's very different from country to country. Here, this side of the world, Australia, New Zealand, and that music that belongs to certain cultural groups and clans and is very much protected and kind of off limits, and you have to get like
Mm.
certain permissions, and it's not really allowed, which is very, very different to where I come from. And of course, in the States, there's the argument about, for example, the traditional spiritual, who may not, and we won't get into that. But we know that those are questions and valid on many levels, etc., etc. But in South Africa, we have this beautiful diversity which we want to celebrate, and in order to celebrate diversity, we need to, kind of really get to into each other's space. If you think about apartheid, our past apartheid, it was a question of putting people into blocks, segmenting, keeping people very different. You don't speak each other's languages, you do not marry across those lines, you do not live in the same spaces, etc. And because I believe, this is purely my belief, because of that, today, people that are studying a culture or a language or a music or eating a food or going to a club that is outside of their comfort zone or their norm or their safe place in that's really honored in South Africa. And we see this in our concerts, choirs that come from all over the world that sing traditional music or music in Afrikaans, and that doesn't matter how badly they sing it or struggle with it, or if the dance moves are not quite how we would do it, you would be you would be greeted with such honor and such jubilation and ululation because you have taken the time, you have gone through the effort to try to get to know me through my culture. And I think that's an incredibly beautiful thing. And that shows in our music today because we have Zulu operas, and we have Afrikaans kwaito music. And kwaito is a style of traditional music, a modern or popular style of music. So it's not abnormal for traditional black composers to write on Afrikaans texts or Latin texts, or traditional white South Africans writing in Zulu or Sotho and that, or using cluster harmonies in African music, which belongs to the Western genre. So it's this mix of what I call where Africa meets the West kind of thing. It's this beautiful fusion music, which I believe is what I call, and I talk about this all the time, is what I call South African music because it's neither traditional nor is it Western. It is of the people and it belongs to the people as much as because we're all South African. And I think that really is such an important lesson. And I think it's something that we are leading the way in South Africa. And of course, that's not to say that there isn't arguments and there isn't, kind of hands off and things like that, but it's not the norm as long as you respect the culture. So, of course, I don't speak all African languages. And that's if I write something in Sesotho, like Tselamoya and Kinayo Morena, I have to do a lot of research, just like any composer has to do. I mean, all composers do research. Um, and that's more difficult than you would think in South Africa because we are a little bit far behind in really, creating sources or having resources for the different cultural languages. And because of cross-pollination of the years, and if you know our history, there are words that are borrowed in the different cultures. They're spelled differently. The songs are different. Modimo is a perfect example. You have Modimo that has exactly the same text. One version is slow and one version is fast, depending on the church where it comes from. The words spelled a little bit differently. So those kind of things are really important. I write as a composer. I write a lot of music, and I exclusively only wrote for the Tuks Camerata. I wasn't really a commission kind of guy, and I'm generally still am not a commission kind of guy. Although I found myself to have quite a couple of commissions at the moment. Um, and the process would really be that I would take melodies that I loved from my days of school, or whether, I mean, I happened to be doing a workshop in a part of South Africa, very rural part of South Africa, where students came and they were singing something outside, and I asked them to sing the melody for me. And I really loved this melody so much that I notated it, and then it became an arrangement which is called Tiko Onotando, which is a really, really upbeat, fun kind of piece and things like that. And I even remember writing it as an honor to those students that just sang me this melody. A lot of them came from my school days when I sang a lot of South African music, and I just remember the melodies. And I just kind of listen to them, and then I just make it my own from either a more traditional kind of way or more traditional Western kind of way. And you'll see that my music, Indodana, for example, is not a traditional piece. It leans more to Western music, in the sense that it's structured, and it has these beautiful schmaltz harmonies, as we call them, dissonance, things like that. Whereas something like more demo is more traditional. What's very important, however, is traditional music as in its very essence has already been touched by colonialism, because harmony is not an African concept. This is really important. So if you're listening to a traditional choir sing, a traditional piece in harmony, it it's in essence already been it's already been flavored, if I could put it that way, by colonialism, because African choirs did not sing in harmony. And that's where groups like Ladysmith Black Mambazo with the late Joseph Shabalala came in, because they adopted those harmonies by hearing vaudevilles and minstrels and traveling groups that came to South Africa during that time. And that is where harmony actually started. So it is a borrowed concept for us, in South Africa. So there's a little bit of history for our fans out there. I hope they
Wow.
haven't fallen asleep. Wake up! Wake up! Okay, good. Right, we got them back.
No, I think you've piqued their interest with all the
Yeah.
stuff. So I've been looking forward to this question because I know I have personally taught my choirs to do things incorrectly. So here's my question. When performing South African music, it is traditional to call out certain words like haibo or chesa. It is also normal to ululate. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. Am I saying that correctly?
Ululate, yeah.
Ululate, sorry.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait, sorry. Can you say it again, Michael?
Ululate. Like as in the letter
Yeah,
ululate.
yeah.
Yes. There's a
Okay,
ululation there.
sorry, Blake, just 1 second. So I made a big mistake talking about things you shouldn't do. I made a big mistake in a concert. I addressed the audience. I said, "We're going to sing this piece. This is a traditional South African piece, and during it, we're going to." And I said the word "uvolate." And then
Okay.
I had a parent contact me afterward who was a lawyer and
Yeah.
said, Danny, I don't think you meant to say uvolate. Uvolate means kissing
Uh-huh.
someone so intensely that you touch their uvula. And unless you
Yeah.
meant that, I don't think you should say that anymore. So then,
Yeah.
but I'm happy to get
I'd
the
love to know
articulation
how
right.
this lawyer knew that, but anyway.
Yeah, good. Great point.
Somebody was sued somewhere along the line for mutilating
Yes,
someone else.
yes. Oof.
So
Uh, Anyways, yeah, so this is one of the big questions that we get quite a lot. And it's also not the easiest question in the world, because there is also much discussion regarding that. So, ululation is a sign of sheer joy. It's a sign of absolute sheer joy. So, if you're singing a song that's joyous, marriage song, or the wedding song, songs of joy, etc., then ululation is very appropriate. It is kind of people saying, "I really love this," and you will find that if you come to South Africa, you go to a concert, even if you sing a piece that people love. It doesn't even have to be a traditional piece, but generally it's a traditional piece, because ululation is a traditional calling or a traditional expression, of joy. People will ululate because they will be joyful that you are singing music in their language, or you're doing something that they really, really love. In music wise, it works the same kind of way. So, of course, ululation is an expression. If the singers are really, really enjoying their singing, um, then ululation is incredibly, incredibly appropriate. In saying that, if somebody really, really loves Indodana, you're not going to ululate in Indodana because it's a sacred kind of piece, and it's also not kind of
Oh yeah,
joyous in
what's the
that kind of way.
translation of the text again? Isn't it all about
The,
the
the Son of
crucifixion?
our Lord Jesus Christ has been crucified. Yeah, so that would not be appropriate in that way. Now, one of the differentiations, and I always look at it, the argument that we have with, do you play Bach with or without a pedal? Would Bach allow you to play? We have that argument in classical music. Well, if people say Bach had a pedal, he probably would have used it. I was like, yeah, but he never had a pedal, so don't play with a pedal. It's kind of the same argument here, where some believe in South Africa that you don't ululate in sacred music. Because it's church music, and we just generally, it's a sign of respect not to do kind of like in Modimo and stuff like that. But that I can unequivocally tell you is not the truth, because we have more charismatic traditional churches as well, where ululation, people ululate all the time and that. So it really is about the context. So it's not an easy answer, but it is very appropriate for choirs to ululate, so and to imitate sounds and that, as long as they understand the context where they come from. And of course, if you're doing traditional music, you could shout out certain words. Let's say it was religious music. Think of it like in a church, a gospel church, the equivalent in the States. Where you have a preacher, but everybody's kind of preaching because everybody's involved in church. So you would say hallelujah if the pastor said something that you agreed with. So you would agree, and you would say hallelujah, and
Amen.
you might have, yeah, hey man, and you would have someone saying, that's preaching. So it's
Preach.
conversational, and yeah, preach. And that's exactly what traditional music is like, and its context. If you are doing a song that's like a toy song, or a protest song, as we call it, you would, for example, have whistling in those kind of songs. But you're not necessarily going to have whistling. You definitely are not going to have whistling in a church song. You won't whistle in a church song. But when you're doing a toy song with toy actions, you would whistle really, really kind of loud. So the context is always important. But the actual act of adding words or adding exclamations, etc., in traditional music is highly appropriate, and choirs and conductors should feel empowered to do it. And if they're not sure what they may or may not say, of course, there are guidelines in that. Just get onto a Zoom. Just email the composer, or if you know a South African that is a musician and a conductor, just reach out to them, ask, or watch videos of really, really good choirs and imitate. You are allowed to imitate. And I think this is going to be your next question. What about the movements? Can you copy the movements of choirs that you have seen? Yes, yes, yes. There is no law that you may not. It's actually a sign of respect if you are imitating choirs in that kind of way. So it's not stealing in any kind of way. In actual fact, by copying really good South African choirs, and those that are highly recommended for their traditional music, and absolutely, you are welcome to do it, and it's again a sign of honor if you do it.
One thing that as you were teaching those high schoolers and even the Missouri State Chorale when you were in Springfield, one thing that I remember you talking about was like when you add movement into South African pieces, it's supposed to be pretty subtle, and it's not supposed to be like super crisp and super like I don't know. I feel like in American culture, especially, I mean, you saw Hamilton, everything like was super crisp, and all the choreography and everything was like that. And I feel like sometimes we add that into our choirography as well. But for South African pieces, it's supposed to be super subtle.
Yeah, so it's not a musical. That's what I always tell choirs all over the world. You're not doing a musical, it's not overacting in that. It really is subtle movements, but it looks really big. So it's almost like an optical kind of illusion. When you have 60 people moving side to side, that's going to look big no matter how you have a look at it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are certain things. Of course, there are certain styles of music again that have the more theatrical. If you're doing a Zulu war dance, I mean, that is as theatrical as you get. I mean, you get stomping dances that are really kind of crazy. You get snake dances, which is a whole kind of choreographed kind of thing. But
Gumboot.
when we talk about the music, gumboot dancing, perfect, just like we did at AC. That's spectacular, and that's choreographed to, to the nines and whatever the case might be. But when we're talking about, our singing choral music, which is the fundamental of what Camerata does, um, the focus is always on the singing. So if you're moving way too much, we know what has that has effect on, um, on our actual instrument. So I mean, it's really very, very subtle, and I think that's an important aspect. It's what I call tricks to the trade. So
Yeah.
if you want to know the tricks of the trade, I'm available. So please contact me at.
What is the most ridiculous thing you've seen a choir not from South Africa do, like either trying to imitate some of the, I can't say it, ululation. I can't say
Yeah,
it, dude.
perfect.
What are some of the most ridiculous sounds that you've heard a choir make?
Sounds or movements.
Sure.
Wow.
Yes.
I think I think the most ridiculous thing I've probably seen is quieting traditional music with sheet music.
Oh yeah.
That to me is probably because if it's like singing a piece that's written with piano, but you left the piano part out. Traditional music has always got some kind of movement to it. It's like singing and music go hand in hand. It's you can't have the one without the other. Again, Indodana is not a prime example because it's not a traditional piece, but traditional music always has some kind of movement, whether it's choreographed or subtle or something. There is always a movement element to it. So I think probably the most ridiculous thing. I mean, you're asking so many questions, and I'm not as I know I look very young, Blake, but that's the product I use. It's called oil of delay. But I actually my mind sometimes really, really can't. I know I've seen a lot of ridiculous things.
I've like heard choirs sing your pieces and make monkey noises, and I'm like, what are they doing?
Yeah, that probably wouldn't be appropriate. So, but thank you for doing my music.
Yeah. Please continue.
So going back to that, so what advice would you give a young conductor who wants to incorporate world music authentically into their programming? It could be South African music or anything in general. You said some of it, contacting the composers, watching really amazing choirs from that culture on YouTube, whatever you can find. Is there anything else that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's easier for someone like myself, in the sense that I'm lucky to know a lot of people across the world through our profession, and I know that's not always possible for all conductors. I mean, but I have found a lot of conductors in the States, especially. I mean, if we really think about it, most conductors in the world, are kind of stick to their cultures and are not as well traveled. But if I do a Lithuanian piece, I just SMS my Lithuanian friends, or if I do a piece from a different culture or I want a pronunciation, I just quickly reach out to someone that I do know. And if it is a country that I'm not 100% sure of, or I don't have a contact in that country, because of course I don't know everybody in every country, I inevitably know someone that knows someone from that country that can assist. So it's just research, and it's so much easier today because we have that ability to be able to just jump on a call or just to reach out. And of course, we've got all these organizations. I mean, you've got ACDA in the States, which might not necessarily help if you really want the pronunciation of a Lithuanian piece or whatever the case might be. But they're international organizations. And one of the arguments I always have is, why are people in America not affiliated with international organizations like IFCM, International Federation of Choral Music? I mean, I know you all go a lot to ACDA conferences, and you have a lot of them. And the ACDA conferences are incredible. But there's an incredible world outside of the States. I mean, there are fantastic festivals. I've just been to the European Choir Games and Grand Prix, which is obviously which is mainly a competition, but a festival at the same time where choirs from all over the world get together and you get to meet people and you get to sing nerdy kind of music. I mean, we did a whole ABBA medley. Who doesn't love ABBA? Choral ABBA is kind of the best in that. But then you see, choirs from Bulgaria and choirs from Sweden and choirs from South Africa and all over the world just presenting music, and you get to meet people. And I think that's a really big idea, is that we need to be brave enough to go out. And if we call ourselves professional choral conductors, Now, professional choral conductors and choral conductors are two totally different things. You get choir conductors that really, they do choir music and it's a part of their job and that, but there are choir conductors that go out of their way to be the best possible version for themselves and for their students. We call ourselves nerds. We eat, live, breathe choir music. The only time we don't listen to choir music is when we're in our car, because then we listen to a radio station because our ears get saturated. Um, but what's really important is we could reach out to each other online. We could give each other a call. I mean, if I do a piece, and I spoke to Cameron about this when we were doing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, or actually it wasn't. It was one of the traditional spiritual pieces that we recorded for the album. He really had to work on the nuance of that because it's not it's very different to where we come from. And in that process, I learned a great deal about that music. So I think it's just so easy and so important to connect and do research. And it's such a nice research because you get to talk to a living person. It's not like reading a book or doing an internet search. So you actually get to talk to someone. And why is that not exciting? I mean, don't we love people?
Fortunately, Michael has been great about responding back. From some people, not so much, right? On other parts of the world because they're just doing their own.
Actually, this is AI. Michael is actually not here right now. He's somewhere completely else.
That's
So
why
I've
you
just
look
kind
so
of
good on
logged him in.
camera.
So
Yeah, that explains a lot. Yeah.
no, that's the oil of delay. That's the oil of
Oil of
delay.
delay. So, Michael, out of all of your arrangements and compositions out there, do you have a least favorite that you'd be willing to share and a most favorite that you've done?
This is an easy question, but
Oh, okay.
I I I love Indodana to bits, but it really has been performed a lot, and everywhere I go, people want to do it, and that's wonderful. But I more often than not don't program it anymore,
You're
because a
just
lot
kind
of
of
choirs
over
have
it.
done it. So no, I wouldn't say I'm over it, but I I'm very great. Here's a side story. So I was here in Australia, and one of our friends said, "Do you want to go to a movie?" My husband stayed here to look after our son, so I went with this friend of ours, and we went to go watch a movie, and it's called Tina, and it's based on a New Zealand story about a choir teacher in New Zealand. Long story short, about a coming of age, how goes through a tough time. And then she gets back into music and she goes to a rich private school here. She's a Samoan woman. And the school is, a white, Western traditional kind of school, and how she, through her culture and through her music, puts a choir together for the Big Sing, which is their big festival here or there in New Zealand. And I went to go watch this movie, and it's incredibly beautiful. It really is like what we as conductors believe in, that music is a vehicle for changing our lives and reminding us of the beauty in the world, even through the darkest times. And that's what the movie's about. And in the core part of the movie, the actual highlight of the movie where these students fall in love with her, I'm sitting there, and the next minute they sing Indodana. And I burst into tears. I was like,
Oh my
what?
gosh.
This film is New Zealand's top grossing film of all time, and it's winning international awards. I was such a mess, and I phoned David Harlow from Santa Barbara. I was like, listen, are you aware? And he's like, yeah, didn't I tell you 2 years ago when they negotiated the contract? So it was an
Wow.
incredibly beautiful surprise. So I'm glad that they used that in the movie. But so Indodana for me, and it's a wonderful piece and it's a go-to piece. But I think one of the reasons is it's been done a lot, but also it's not traditional, and there's more kind of traditional kind of music. I think my favorite work that I have written, and the one that I love the most is an original work called Absalom, My Son. It's an extensive work based on the death of Absalom, King David's son. It gives tribute, kind of like in the beginning, very, very slightly to Eric Whitacre's version of
When
Absalom,
David heard.
because when David heard, correct, thank you. Um, because that piece of Eric's really moved me a lot in a time in my life. But the piece is built on the stages of grief, because it goes through a time where my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and she passed away. And that kind of piece, it just kind of explained what I was going through, what I went through, and for me, that is the most special piece I've ever written from a personal point of view. Um, but it's also an incredible piece, and it's not traditional South African. It's as Western as you get, and I think that is one of my most special pieces.
Yeah. Well, I will say when Indodana is performed like you guys did it with Danny's choir and the Republic High School choir and the Missouri State Chorale and Tuks Camerata, all, hundreds and hundreds of people on that stage, filling that entire stage at Juanita K. Hammond's Hall. I don't know if I would get tired of that if it was performed like that all the
Yeah.
time.
Well, thank you. And look, and in the moment, of course, I don't get tired of it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
really love the piece, and of course, I work on it. But I don't always. For example, I'll be going to South Carolina, and I wouldn't program it for that. I would do something else because there is so much more out there.
yeah,
There's a new piece of mine, my latest piece, Inkosi Namantla, which we ended ACDA with, which is really one of my better works from a compositional kind of style. I think I really enjoy it, and it's different and it's unique.
well, it's diverse,
And I'm
like
actually,
within the piece,
yeah,
like it's
exactly.
wonderful.
And I quite like that, where because the whole point was I was representing the whole program was from you know Western colonialism going through all to what I call South African music today, and that
Yeah.
was kind of the concept of the program. But also, I'm working on two new pieces, actually one for Cameron. So if Cameron's listening, I am working on your piece, Cameron. It's coming. 'Cause he bugs me a lot. I'm like, hey Michael, how's that composition coming for? I asked you about yesterday. I was like, yeah, Cameron, it's not written yet.
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday, yeah.
That's
Which
funny.
of course is tomorrow for you.
So last question. What is the most chaotic thing that has happened during a Tux rehearsal or performance, either when you were a singer in it or when you were the conductor? I'm sure there's got to be something.
Oh, they're absolutely. So the choir has these traditions, and they just do things all the time. And one of the things that they do is we have these lunch hour concerts at the university, so we have two of them a year. And as part of the lunch hour concerts, um, they do a prank in the second one. There's always a prank in the second one for the conductor. And I remember I was singing in Camerata at this stage. And And I pranked that year because you forget as the conductor. Even when I was conductor, they pranked me all the time, and you would forget. I mean, I would start a piece, and then they would sing something completely different, and it really freaks you out. And um, so those are the kind of pranks. But this particular prank was incredible. It was in a concert. The hall is packed to capacity. The audience, of course, doesn't know any of these pranks. You always have to explain it. And our conductor at that stage was conducting with music. And it was a very, very serious piece. And on page three, he turned across, and we had to put a very, very beautiful picture of a lady with not many clothes on, and it really completely threw him off, and he just didn't, he was so furious. He stopped the piece and walked directly off
Oh
the
my
stage,
gosh.
and he
Wow.
didn't come back. So it
My
was
gosh.
that was quite yeah, I mean, I wasn't part of that prank. I have to put I was really
Wow.
young in the choir, and that, but it was probably one of the craziest things we'd
Oof.
ever done.
Wow.
But yeah, that was a memory burnt in here for a long time. So
Wow.
That was a good one.
I had a very strict rule. I had very strict, I mean, several strict rules in Camerata, and one of them was a student may never, ever come to me before a concert to say their voice isn't feeling great or tell me. Never. They were not allowed to do that because it would freak me out. If I knew one voice wasn't 100%, it would bug me so much. I would be thinking balance, and they knew there was that they were hammered when they joined the choir. It is hammered into them that you never tell the conductor two things. One, you may never tell the conductor that your voice isn't great before performance. That you smile, and even if your voice is hoarse and he picks it up, and that you say it's perfectly fine, and you just go on with it. And the other thing they may never ever ask me is when we're touring, where's the toilet?
Hmm.
I mean, we've just got to this place by ourselves. And then I would be like, it would frustrate me so much. We've just got to this shopping mall or to this university or this venue, and you're asking me, where's the toilets? Uh, that would freak me out.
These are brilliant
So
rules. I love them. I'm
brilliant,
definitely
brilliant.
going to implement rule one because I think it's the same thing. It really does freak me
Yeah.
out too. I like it.
No, and it puts unnecessary pressure on you as a conductor, and that's definitely not what you need. So,
What about if
Yeah,
it's a
I agree.
soloist? Do you want to know if it's a soloist?
well, look, I mean, in that kind of case, that would be a different scenario, obviously. But I generally, I would say 99.9 recurring percent, I never have soloists, never.
Yeah.
And if it's solo, it will be a solo group. I've never really done pieces with a soloist in that. Most of the time, like you'll see in my traditional music, even though it will say solo and stuff like that, it might just be the start, but then it'll be like a small group singing. And that's
Yeah.
also because my choir was always so big. But in general, I don't do music with solos. I've never really liked it. So I remember doing only in Sleep the 1 year, and I think I used three soprano soloists rather than one kind of thing.
Oh,
So and they
yeah.
sang together. So then again, the rule would apply because just fake it until you make it, or just mime or something. Then I wouldn't know.
Michael, this has been amazing. Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you. Danny, do you have anything else?
No, I appreciate your time. Once again, thank you for just for your efforts for choral music and getting the collaborative effort between you and Cameron to get South African music out there. It's been life-changing for many of my students. So you are very appreciated, everything you've done.
It's just so funny that like in Podunk, Missouri, we have all this rich. I feel like we have such rich South African music in this area because of your music and your arrangements, and because of you and Cameron's relationship, and it just keeps spreading and spreading and spreading. So thank you.
Well, thank you. That really means a lot. And of course, especially at a time where I'm quite removed from my country and from choirs that don't really know my music here, which is refreshing in a way and also a challenge. Let's bring South African music this side of the world. Of course, there are choirs that do it, but yes, I that really means the world. And of course, it's wonderful coming from two rock stars like yourself. So thank you so much for the time and for making me feel important and for saying that I'm pretty.
You are very
No.
Blake feels that very strongly as
Yeah.
we learned in this episode.
What a
So,
what a
absolutely.
beautiful human
Thanks.
being.
I agree. I agree too. You are beautiful. I must say.
Stop it, guys. More and more. Stop it. More and more.
Well, thank you, beautiful human. You rock, and we will see you again. And hopefully, I want to go to Australia so bad, so I'm just gonna crash in
Yeah,
your
well,
house.
if you're here, please do. There's definitely rooms if you ever want to come. Danny, you're not invited. Just Blake.
That makes sense.
Well, we appreciate it, Michael. You're a rock star. Thank you again. I
Appreciate
know
you guys.
our listeners are
Thank
gonna love this
you.
episode. So, well, that wraps up season 2 of the Choir Guys podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube to the Choir Guys channel so you can know when new episodes are coming out. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Once again, the Choir Guys is brought to you by Endeavor Music Publishing. Make sure to browse their website before programming music for your next concert. Also, if you are interested in becoming a sponsor of our podcast, check the description box below for a link to our Season 3 sponsorship packet.
There are already 4 sponsors on our show for next season. They are Sight Reading Factory, Endeavor Music Publishing, GIA in Walton, and also Kansas Made Fundraising. So if you want to add your name to that list, please check out that link. You can follow the show on all social media at the Choir Guys Pod to catch bonus content throughout the week. Feel free to message us through these platforms if you want to hear us talk about something specific on the show. We also have a new newsletter, Danny, where we send out information that you can't find anywhere else. Click the link in the description box below to subscribe to our mailing list.
Thanks again to Michael Barrett for joining us on the podcast once again.
Woo!
Make sure to tune in next time for our annual Back to School episode to kick off Season 3. Click the bell on YouTube or follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you can know when that episode drops.
I just really got super nauseous whenever you said back to school episode. I
think
can't
about it
believe.
yet.
Yeah, anyway. Thanks for watching, everyone. We will see you in a couple weeks for Season 3. Bye!